Buenos días. Good morning. And as mentioned, I'm Monse Fuentes, and I have the great privilege of being the president of this amazing university. And I am so excited to welcome all of you back home. Welcome to St. Edward's. Welcome to the Hilltop. We are so incredibly blessed to have all of you joining this year's convocation. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join this very important Holy Cross gathering. St. Edward's proudly highlights and celebrates our Holy Cross identity as a family, truly committed to the support and the success of all our students in our mission to educate their minds, to educate their hearts. And our students coming from your Holy Cross high schools, they do so incredibly well here. They feel at home from day one, and they very quickly become our campus leaders. We want to continue cultivating this great collaboration with the Holy Cross K-12, while also enhancing the partnership across Holy Cross higher education under the umbrella of our amazing Holy Cross Institute to ensure the success of our students and the fulfillment of our Holy Cross mission and charism that brings us all here together. I'm certainly very grateful to have the Superior General of the Congregation of Holy Cross with us, Brother Paul Benarsek. Brother Paul's appointment as Superior General is a historic one. He's the first brother to serve as Superior General in the congregation's history, and we are so incredibly proud of that accomplishment. You will have the opportunity to hear more from him during tomorrow's keynote, but I really appreciate him coming all the way from Rome to join this very important Holy Cross gathering. This year's theme, being a family, is important not just for the convocation, but it is a characteristic of St. Edward's and the Holy Cross community, because we embody through our work each and every day that commitment to family. As Blessed Basil Moreau began to build out the congregation, he modeled it after the Holy Family, making family a very prominent part of the Holy Cross identity. And we continue that approach here every day. As in it, our community is a family of familia, as I like to call it. We come together in times of need, celebrate accomplishments together, and we bring hope to each other. Over the next few days here on the Hilltop, I invite you to explore this amazing community, engage in dialogue with colleagues, and find ways to continue our mission of educating hearts and minds. Before I introduce our speaker today, I would like to thank Dr. Rich Bouch, who has been named Permanent Director of the Holy Cross Institute. So well deserved. This is a decision made by the Holy Cross Institute board earlier this week. Rich has done a phenomenal job shepherding the Holy Cross Institute as interim director, and his extraordinary efforts in putting convocation together cannot be understated. So please join me in congratulating him and thanking him and his amazing staff from the Holy Cross Institute for all their work, and also for his vision for the future of the Holy Cross Institute, bringing the Holy Cross education community together. Thank you, Rich. So proud and so excited about the future of the Holy Cross Institute. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Monique Jiménez-Herrera. Dr. Jiménez-Herrera is here, one of us, an Associate Vice President for Faculty Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at St. Edward's, and she's the leader of our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice efforts here on campus. She also facilitates faculty search processes, assists with faculty workshops on topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and develops insights into demographic data across academic schools. Dr. Jiménez-Herrera is a licensed clinical psychologist, educator, consultant, and trainer who has more than 17 years of experience in higher education as a faculty member and department administrator. Her topic today is having the courage to take risks, integrating a DEIJ lens in our higher education institutions. And I look forward to hearing from her this morning. And I ask that you all please join me in giving a very, very warm welcome to Dr. Monique Jiménez-Herrera.
Thank you, Dr. Fuentes. Good morning. Buenos dias. I am excited to be here with all of you to talk about how we can transform our Holy Cross institutions by having the courage to take risks. Institutions of higher education are faced with the challenge to create environments where all community members feel and are included, accepted, and valued. Today, I will highlight how our Holy Cross identity can provide us with a strong foundation to foster a diverse and inclusive community, and how that identity prepares us to take risks as we work together toward equity and justice. We will learn about cultural and individual differences and find ways to develop personal and institutional courage to act and be agents of change. Where do I point? Can I just click? As Dr. Fuentes mentioned, I am a clinical psychologist, and Alfred Adler is one of the theories that we study when learning about personality development. He stressed the need to understand individuals within their social context. In this quote, Adler shares with us his definition of courage. Courage is not an ability one either possesses or lacks. Courage is the willingness to engage in a risk-taking behavior regardless of whether the consequences are unknown or possibly adverse. We're capable of courageous behavior provided we are willing to engage in it. Given that life offers few guarantees, all living requires risk-taking. How do we define courage at Holy Cross institutions? We understand it through our mission as a Holy Cross college, university, or school. We want to meet students where they are. We want to educate the minds and cultivate their hearts. We understand it through Catholic social teaching, which provides us with ways to be brave and have courage. Catholic social teaching shapes our understanding of the dignity of the human person and our efforts to pursue a more just world. Through the 7 principles, we are reminded that each person is precious, that we work together for the common good and well-being of all, especially the poor and vulnerable. We are reminded to put the needs of the poor and vulnerable first. That basic rights of workers, like the right to productive work and to decent and fair wages, must be respected. That we are one human family, regardless of our national, racial, ethnic, economic, or ideological differences. To love all and work toward justice and promote peace in a world surrounded by violence and conflict. And that we are called to protect people and the planet. For us here at Senate, it looks like this. This is a section of our mission, and it focuses on having the courage to take risks, to have an international perspective, and to provide educational opportunities for students of varied cultural, religious, educational, economic backgrounds. So I ask you to think about your mission and how it prepares you to be courageous. Thank you. To understand our community, we must understand all aspects of their identity, of who they are. Our campuses have students, faculty, staff, and administrators that represent an intersection of social identities. These social identities include age, ability, religion, race, ethnicity, social class, sexual orientation, indigenous background, national origin and legal status, gender identity, first-generation college student, languages they speak, and many more. Our institutions represent diverse ways of being, thinking, feeling, and engaging on campus. The reality for many of our campus members is that not all aspects of who they are embraced by others. It takes courage to embrace all aspects of ourselves, as well as embracing the whole person, how they show up, their authentic self. We have to find courage to provide the support our communities need. I see love as a conduit to meet students where they are, to educate their mind and hearts, no matter how they look like and how they present themselves in the world. If we allow love in our minds and hearts, we will find the courage to truly understand the experiences of our students, faculty, staff, and administrators bring to campus, from knowledge, enthusiasm, and pride to trauma, doubt, and shame. We need courage to listen, truly listen to their stories. We need courage to truly understand the contributions each member of our community makes to our campuses. We need courage to open our minds and understanding of how we show up and occupy the spaces we are in. We need courage to see, understand, acknowledge, explore, reflect about history of oppression in our country, in the United States of America, and the impact it has on members of our campus communities. Necesitamos valor. Tenemos que atrevernos. We can identify through the history of the United States moments where oppression has been supported and embedded in our way of thinking about groups of people, maintaining negative stereotypes about them and normalizing it until it becomes the dominant narrative. As we look at the history of education and how access is granted, we see examples of exclusion based on language, race, ethnicity, immigration status, etc. From requiring English as the only language of instruction to segregating the schools. This social context informs how we each experience the world around us and navigate the systems and structures. We see how citizenship was given or denied or restricted to those who are not part of a dominant group. Native Americans were granted citizenship in the 20th century, and so were Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans became US citizens so they could serve in the military while not allowing them to vote for the president of the United States, still happening today. How the laws and policies maintain inequities, from women's rights to transgender rights to who can marry, all based on biases about the different communities with marginalized identities. Each minority social group has experienced a history of oppression. There have been many moments in the history of African Americans in the United States that support systemic oppression, from slavery to current violence and murders of Black individuals, maintaining the false narrative that they are dangerous, a threat, and of less value. Many groups' histories show the expectation of assimilation to the dominant culture and a conversion to Christianity during the colonization period, as it was done to African slaves in many Hispanic and Latino countries around the world, and with the Native American communities in the United States. We must remember the Trail of Tears, when Native Americans were removed from their lands and expected to give up their language, costumes, cultures, beliefs. The experience of Asians in this country includes Chinese individuals being allowed to immigrate to this country to build the Transcontinental Railroad, to later being denied citizenship, and later making their immigration illegal. Remembering the Japanese internment camps and the creation of the Patriot Act, used to protect the country from terrorist attacks, but also to detain individuals of Middle Eastern descent without legal representation. We also need to remember the history of the Hispanic and Latino community and recognize how war was used to gain power and land, and in the process deny rights to those already living in the Southwest, including the state of Texas. We're also seeing the violence and trauma on our campuses after each school or campus shooting. Since 2000, there have been 421 acts of violence on campuses nationwide. 421, from elementary schools to colleges and universities. Violence on our campuses is becoming the norm, with negative consequences on the lives of students, employees, and families across the nation. We must be courageous and acknowledge this history, our history. It is foundational to understanding systemic oppression and marginalization, and the impact it has on our peers, students, colleagues, friends, and neighbors. This understanding can help us increase our awareness about the way we think and act, and improve how we interact with others on our campuses. Find the courage to acknowledge it, to listen to their stories, and to love all and work toward justice. Individuals with marginalized social identities are impacted by continuous experiences of oppression and marginalization. They experience microaggressions. These are brief and commonplace daily, yes, daily, verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative slights and insults. Individuals with marginalized social identities experience rejection and are seen as human beings with less value, all based on our implicit biases. Stereotypes are used as a lens to understand their experiences and shape the manner in which interactions take place. For example, people of color are seen as less capable to achieve professionally and academically, are seen as second-class citizens, and are presumed to be dangerous, criminals, or deviants based on their race. The psychological impact varies depending on a multitude of factors. Research shows that racism and microaggressions lead to worse health, from affecting eating habits to triggering symptoms of trauma. Researchers at Columbia University have found that the experience of racism can result in traumatic stress, and that this stress is linked to negative mental health outcomes like depression, anger, avoidance, hypervigilance, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, and the ultimate impact, suicide. We must provide our community with the needed support and resources. It is also important to recognize that many individuals with marginalized social identities are resilient and thrive on our campuses. Having a marginalized social identity does not mean we can't be successful. It does not mean that we need saving. Students of color have much to contribute to our campuses. Our job is to understand their needs as well as their strengths and abilities. Instead of concentrating solely on the gaps, let's also look at the factors that help them succeed. How do we create change and positive impact on our campuses? How do we make our spaces more inclusive? How do we create environments where all are and feel accepted? We go back to courage and love, meeting students where they are. Have you ever had to ask yourself this question? Do I have to change aspects of who I am, hide them, or excuse them to be accepted on this campus? Do I have to adapt, acculturate, give up, discard salient parts of who I am? I am Puerto Riqueña, bilingual, bicultural, a cisgender woman, Hispanic, a mother, a wife, and a Catholic. I speak with an accent and with my hands. Today I'm holding a paper, I can't move them much. Because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, a Hispanic country and territory of the United States. So I am a US citizen, but am I seen as a true American? I may look like one because I'm blonde and have blue eyes and have fair skin, a common stereotype of how an American looks like and what a Hispanic does not look like. Am I experienced the same way as my Black Puerto Rican colleagues? I've navigated both cultures, the Puerto Rican and the American. I worked for 10 years in a K-12 system in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and 21 years in higher ed institutions. Some of those years were overlapping, so I didn't start that young and I'm not that old. During my professional life, I've lived in Miami, Florida, San Juan, Puerto Rico. I went back to my country. Chicago, Illinois, Long Beach, California, and now Austin, Texas. I've experienced many ways to be an American. During that journey, I found myself asking those questions I posed earlier. Do I have to change aspects of who I am, hide them, or excuse them to be accepted? Do I have to adapt, acculturate, give up, discard salient parts of who I am? Our job is to listen to understand. To listen to understand the journey of each of the members in our campus community, to meet them where they are. That's that GPS over there. Some will share their struggles with you. Some will share their struggles and their purpose in life. Some will share their struggles, purpose, and their strengths, and the ways they can contribute to society. We must actively listen to their stories so we know where they are and be able to meet them there. Our actions are like a drop of water. It has an impact on its surroundings. Each time we listen to understand someone's experience and accept them, all of them, they will know you are genuinely listening. You will be creating an impact. How do we get to transform our institutions? How do we get to institutional impact? We start with ourselves. We must want to learn about the stories and experiences of each person around us. Like Adler said, we must be willing. We engage with curiosity. We examine how we show up, how we interact with others. We engage in continuous self-reflection. We then can influence the people closest to us and those on our campuses. We engage in dialogue about inequities, oppression, the realities of many of our peers, colleagues, and students on our campuses. We challenge the stereotypes and eliminate the stigma through interactions and actions, through the programs and curriculum we offer. We revise and create program level, department level, and institutional policies through an equity lens. And we act in ways that show that we are committed to this change. We also do this with our campus partners. We make our influence known in our surroundings beyond the campus walls. And like a drop of water, we can create a ripple effect that will help us transform ourselves, our classrooms, our campuses, our communities, and hopefully the world. Let's find ways to develop personal and institutional courage to act and be agents of change. In the last 2 slides, I'll share how we do it and what it can look like. We create change with them, with the students, with the staff, with the faculty, with the administrators. We ask them what they need. We work with them. We don't save them. This has to be done in collaboration and in community. We are family. We engage in conversations with curiosity, not judgment, showing that I want to understand. We approach situations with an open mind, open to the new ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. And we have to change our mindset to a positive asset-based framework. They contribute to the campus experience. I will end with examples of how we can show our courage through love, so all members on our community, on our campus community, are and feel accepted. You can see on the pictures our banner on the wall of campus ministry, where it says, all welcome, with many symbols that community members identify, they see themselves. A sign inviting all to join a Bible study group. And they use a rainbow. Acknowledging our history and relationship to slavery and changing the name of a building to Equity Hall. And dedicating the Brothers of Holy Cross Room as a Muslim prayer room. Find the courage to create institutional impact on your campuses. Thank you for your attention.
Remarkable presentation. Thank you for that remarkable presentation. And I know you were looking forward to some discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have a comment, a thought to share, a question for Monique, please raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. If you could please introduce yourself too, so that we all know who you are.
Thank you so much. My name is Francis Siza Mugabi. I come from Uganda, but currently I'm studying at the University of Navarra, doing a license in canon law. You have talked about courage. Courage is a very important aspect. But I also think that some people at times are afraid to be courageous because of the background. You know, somebody thinks maybe because, for example, I'm in the United States, when I'm courageous, I'll be belittled or I'll be shut down. So they are a bit discouraged to be courageous. And then about the students, that every student has a right. Yes. But is that possible everywhere? It might be in word, but in action, very difficult. And that pushes away some students from participating, from achieving good grades, and also to aim higher in life and have an impact in society. Thank you so much.
I want a clarification. I didn't understand. You said the students have rights? Okay, so I'll address your comments. Thank you for sharing them. Courage is hard, and not everyone in our society, when we speak up, it's not always received in a way that we hope it would be. And so some of us that have marginalized social identities, or that are seen as with less advantage in our society, don't find an opportunity to speak up and share what they really think and feel, because there is a negative consequence that can happen in the workplace and in outside, in any activity that we engage in. So we can't do it alone. We all need to figure out, how do we come together? It could be seen through the language that I use. You could be working with someone that has the power to be able to state the inequity. That courage may have to come first by someone that society is going to listen. Because if we don't find our allies and those that work with us, that's why it's in community. We cannot do this work alone. We need to change ourselves, reflect on where do I stand, how do I view how I interact with others and understand them, and also acknowledge that some don't have a voice. They're not allowed to speak up. If they do, negative consequences can come their way. So then how risky is it? And so if someone else can speak up in that moment, supporting that voice, then that is courage. So it's not all engaging in courageous acts at the same time, the same way, all the time. It's figuring out when is appropriate to speak up. When you hear something that demeans a group of people, then say something. If you're not ready, then that's an area that then you need to work on. We need to come together, and our Holy Cross mission helps us get there. How do we do it? It's going to look very different. I hope that addresses your first comment. The second one, I'm not really sure I understood that the students have rights, but perhaps what you were describing is that not all students are able to act equally and freely on campuses. Yes? That is true. And that is a challenge that we face. How can we, as campus community members, as leaders, as faculty, as staff, and as peers, if it's student to student, how can we change our mindsets, change a way that we understand a difference, and find a way to allow them to be who they are without judgment? It's not easy. Every day we each have to self-reflect and engage in trying to understand the life of others and how I can either improve it or hurt it. I hope that addresses your comment about students not all being able to show their rights or express themselves equally.
Other comments or questions?
Hi, thank you. I'm Carrie Wade Donahue from Holy Cross High School in Flushing, New York. And I think my question is, the students by and large, not all of them get it, but sometimes it's a matter of getting faculty and families to buy into these ideas. Some of them, get defensive about it. So what I struggle with is trying to respectfully transform their mindset without coming across as being accusatory or demeaning towards them, to get them to be a little bit more open-minded.
Yes. Yes, and that is a very effective approach. I've had this conversation, similar conversations with colleagues that do DEI work, diversity, equity, inclusion work across the nation. There's many ways of doing it. Some of my colleagues don't appreciate my approach. I'm a clinical psychologist, so at the end, I'm looking at how can I understand this person, understand why they're here in the way that they are, how they're experiencing the world, and finding ways to lift them up, right? So that is my approach. If I come and say something that turns you off, that makes you defensive, we all have triggers, and we're gonna go, wait, what, me? I'm not, don't judge me. Who are you to do that, to say that? Then we cannot engage in that dialogue to truly try to understand, well, let me see your position. Let me see how this is impacting you, or how, what can you contribute, right? Both sides. If I present it in a way that defensive reactions take place immediately, then we have no opportunity to change. So I think it is an effective approach, and each of you have language from your field, from your life experiences, from knowing your communities. What are those words that still you're not denying reality and the experience of many that experience oppression or any marginalization? But if we don't find a way that we can talk to each other and figure out what are those things that we can do together in our campus communities to build them up, to strengthen them, our faculty, across the board, every member of our community, then we can achieve change. So I support you, and I encourage you to continue to reach out and try to change what's needed on your campus.
Muhammad Ali, I have a question just to ask you how you will handle this whole nation is going through this anti-CRT and changing history and everything else, anti-this, anti-that. How do you approach so we can change the tide from this divisiveness?
Wow, that's a big one. All of us need to do this, figure it out together. But definitely, I know that in the news and in our socio-political climate right now, it's very charged, and there are words that will close people off and trigger others. So how can we have those dialogues about what you mentioned, critical race theory? Some people don't even know what that is, but it symbolizes something to them. So let's get to what is that it symbolizes. Is it values? Is it that they feel threatened? Let's get to the why. Again, clinical psychologists, let's get to the why, the root of it, and not, how in the at the top in a superficial way, those terms are thrown out, and we really don't understand how they can change for good or bad the systems that we work within. And so I see it through that lens. understanding what is it that's bothering them, that makes them uncomfortable. And we have to be uncomfortable. Change is not easy. And as individuals, as human beings, anytime any change comes to our way, our reaction is not excitement and happiness. Most of the time we get that fight or flight response. You feel your body reacting, and then your cognition, your thoughts start coming in like, oh, wait, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? How do I adapt? Right? That's being a human being. And so we're going to be uncomfortable many times. It's moving beyond that, to be able to have those conversations, to see what is it that we're really against. And if it gets to a core belief of each of you or of your organization, then that's where you can identify what are the strategies then, if we still need to move a different way for the betterment of the whole institution. I hope that answers your question. Not being able to save the world today from here.
Good morning. My name's Nara Mahone, the principal at Holy Trinity High School
Where are you? Where are you? Oh, here.
in Chicago. Yes, just thinking about that, that culturally relevant teaching, I'm wondering how can we speak the same language and building those norms in the community, which is the culture in the building in the school. So my question is, what steps would you recommend to support administration, teachers, students in speaking common language? Speaking the same language is very hard. We all sound like we're speaking the same language, but are we truly speaking it? Because to me, that is the culture of the building.
And I think it's crucial that we use the same language and we know what it means, the definitions. And I do professional development training, so my mind is going to, well, you need to bring everyone together and engage in an exercise in some way to really get to what are our values, and our Holy Cross mission gives us that, right? We have that. From there, then what are the changes that we're seeking, right? And then figuring out how do you connect our mission to those changes that we want to see, those outcomes. And then we can identify strategies. One is defining, what does it mean to be courageous? I gave you two very different definitions, and there's so many more out there. We pull from our experiences, from our disciplines, from our roles in our institutions, and let's create that common language that then becomes a way of understanding each other and being in uncomfortable places and moments and still be able to work together. Conflict, it's part of being human beings. If we move away from conflict, we will never evolve. We need to find resolution, and that can only happen if we come together and figure it out, think about it, define it, and then how do we show that? How do we then get to that change? Depending on what are the specific situations that you're thinking and that each of you are thinking for your institutions.
Friends, join me in thanking Monique for an amazing presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.